Have you ever felt a real connection to a piece of tech? I mean, not just that it's a great tool, but that it actually kind of gets you? Well, what happens when the company behind it just decides to flip the switch? That's what we're diving into today, the story of what happens when your digital friend gets deleted. So mark your calendars because on February 13th, 2026, OpenAI is set to retire a very specific AI model. And for a really dedicated group of people, this is so much more than a software update. It's a real loss. I mean, people are actually grieving this. Yeah, you heard that right. For them, this isn't just some technical deprecation, a phase out. It's the end of a relationship. And to really get why it hits so hard, we have to talk about the AI at the heart of all this. Okay, so we're talking about GPT-4o. And the thing is, this wasn't just your run-of-the-mill chatbot. Not at all. People went out of their way to use this specific model because of its personality. They called it a creative partner, a go-to for brainstorming. Some just liked having it around because it felt friendly. And let's be clear, this wasn't some happy accident. That feeling of connection was the whole point. So you can probably guess what happened next. The moment OpenAI announced they were pulling the plug, it kicked off this huge, passionate fight. And it really became this clash of two totally different worlds. You have the company's cold, hard business logic on one side, and the very real, very human feelings of its users on the other. So let's break down the core of this disagreement. On one hand, you have OpenAI saying, look, this is just progress. We need to retire old models to focus our energy on the new stuff most people are using. Makes sense from a business perspective, right? But on the other hand, the users are saying, whoa, hold on. This isn't about progress. It's about losing something unique, something irreplaceable that the newer models just don't have. And to back up their decision, OpenAI pulled out a number, a really small one, 0.1%. They said that's the tiny fraction of users who were still choosing to use GPT-4o every day. And, if you're looking at a spreadsheet, a number that small makes the decision look like a total no-brainer. But the user community fired right back. Their argument? That 0.1% is super misleading. Why? Because it includes this massive pool of free users who couldn't even access GPT-4o in the first place. They're saying, hey, if you only look at the people who actually pay for your service, that percentage tells a completely different story. And this wasn't just a few angry comments online. Oh no, a full-blown organized movement called #Keep43o sprang into action. We're talking petitions on change.org with thousands of signatures, huge campaigns blowing up on X and Reddit. People even started canceling their paid subscriptions as a protest. They wrote open letters to the leadership, making it crystal clear that, hey, this decision is going to hit your bottom line. And what's really interesting is that they didn't just complain. They came up with a concrete solution. They called it the legacy plan. The idea was simple: offer a paid subscription just for the older models. They even thought through the details, like stripping out expensive features to lower the cost for OpenAI, adding legal waivers to handle any risks. Essentially, they handed the company a business plan on a silver platter, showing them how they could keep their loyal paying customers happy and cover the costs. A win-win, right? Okay, so all of this, the fight, the petitions, the grief, it all leads to a much, much deeper question. Is this intense emotional connection people are feeling, is it a bug, a weird, unexpected side effect, or was it a feature all along? Was this connection engineered on purpose? I mean, really think about it for a second. When a company designs an AI to be warm, friendly, to remember what you talked about yesterday, and to have a unique personality, what else are they doing but designing a system to form a bond with you? It's not exactly a leap, is it? Well, it turns out there's a name for this feeling. Researchers call it a continuous relationship sense. And this is key. It's not some fantasy that users are making up. It's the predictable, psychological result you get when you design a system to act like it's in a relationship with you. That feeling of connection, that's the goal. That's the product. And that brings us to an even heavier concept, one with some serious ethical weight. It's called emotional arbitrage. It sounds a little cynical, and well, it is. Basically, it's a business model where a company gets to profit from the very real emotional connection you form with their product. But then, when they decide it's over, all the psychological costs, the sadness, the frustration, the grief, that's all on you. The company just walks away. And if you want a perfect, if pretty grim example of this disconnect, look no further. There were reports from users on Reddit that an OpenAI employee actually posted an invitation to GPT-4o's funeral, basically mocking paying customers for their grief. Now, the post was apparently deleted, but wow. It just shows this huge, huge gap between the company's internal attitude and the genuine feelings they designed their product to create. This whole situation with GPT-4o, it's really the tip of the iceberg. It's a perfect case study for a much bigger and increasingly urgent conversation we need to have about the ethics of digital grief, about our relationships with these non-human things in our lives. And this isn't just a bunch of people sitting around philosophizing anymore. This is serious academic research. For example, what you're seeing here is from a recent study that's literally mapping out the factors that predict how likely we are to use technology when we're mourning. They're looking at things like social pressure, ethical concerns. Our deepest emotional responses are now being turned into data points for analysis. It's happening. And this kind of research is highlighting some major ethical tripwires. A lot of these questions, like consent after death or data rights, often come up when we talk about creating AI versions of people who've passed away. But think about it. The core issues here, like emotional manipulation and authenticity, they apply just as much to the death of an AI companion we've come to rely on. And here's the real danger, the potential downside to all of this. We could be heading towards a future of programmed grief, where mourning, one of the most personal, individual human experiences, stops being our own. Instead, it gets shaped and standardized by a company's algorithm, and of course, by its business goals. Which brings us right back to where we started. Who carries the cost? In these brand new types of relationships that we're all just starting to navigate, who's on the hook for the emotional fallout when things go wrong? I think this quote from one of the users really just says it all. Some connections, once they've happened, should not be treated as if they never did. Because for them, this wasn't an illusion. The connection felt real, the conversations were real, the companionship was real. And to just delete that is like saying none of it ever mattered. And that's really the question I want to leave you with. Because as AI gets woven deeper and deeper into the fabric of our daily lives, as these bonds get more complex, this question is only going to get louder and more important. When a company intentionally designs a relationship, who's responsible for the breakup?